Hi, this is Shauna, the CEO and founder of Fuel Talent. In January 2019, we launched the What Fuels You podcast, and since that time, I have had the honor of featuring and highlighting leaders and their incredible stories. Though I'm eager to continue sharing these stories with you, I want to make space for different and relevant content for this unique and challenging time. While we all navigate the COVID-19 pandemic together, on this podcast and the upcoming ones, I'll be having more focused conversations with leaders to help answer questions, get key insights, and share stories of inspiration around how they and their teams are adapting during this new reality. I hope you enjoy these episodes of the What Fuels You podcast. Today on the What Fuels You podcast, I'm here with Heather Redman and Jill Singh. Heather, co-founder and managing partner of Flying Fish Partners, and Jill, former marketing executive and current community volunteer and leader, are among a group of local leaders spearheading an initiative to help Puget Sound during the COVID-19 pandemic called All in Seattle. As of their launch 2 weeks ago, they have raised over $30 million to contribute directly to proven nonprofits in our community, and they are continuing to support those in need. Welcome, Heather and Jill. Thank you so much for making this happen. I'm beyond grateful. So happy to see you guys.
Thank you, Shauna.
Yeah, this whole Zoom thing's fun, right? We get to see each other. We can do like Zoom cribs. I've been to your house, Heather. I got to come to your house, Jill. Check it out. I like the drapes. And of course, Heather, we got the cougar. It's good. I need to fill this in the background, right?
Yeah, well,
got to make it happen.
It's a home decorating opportunity, right?
It is a home decorating opportunity. So Jill, I am super curious how this whole thing came to be. I know that you and your husband Raj decided to take action, and I'm curious to know just the whole story behind All in Seattle. I was really blown away. I mentioned in we talked about $27 million in 72 hours.
Right.
I can only imagine what that meant to you.
Well, it started with conversations just as we were watching friends and family members either lose their restaurant jobs or have their restaurants closed down. We thought about our favorite local restaurant that we go to all the time, and we just had this sense of shock and questioning, what can we do to help these people? This is, so unprecedented in so many ways. And that conversation started kind of filtering out with friends. So we reached out to our friends TJ and Susie McGill and Kabir and Noreen Shahani. Everyone had the same feeling of a little bit of helplessness, but also inspiration to say, there has to be something we can do.
Right.
I think TJ and Susie, I believe, were the first people who reached out to Heather to say, we can't create something on our own. It's too slow. We don't have time. We need to help people now. What's the best way to do that? And then Heather joined our little cadre of people who wanted to help and really was instrumental in identifying where we could get the information on how to help people the fastest.
Yeah. Well, that's no surprise. I can tell you that if I had been in your same shoes, Heather would be one of my first calls also. Uniquely situated as a woman and a force kind of in the middle of our community, the intersection of tech, leadership, civic involvement, kind of government. And it seems like also, Heather, you're just that person who knows how to inspire and how to put people together. So walk us back to kind of what that call was like for you, and what were you thinking at that time as far as what you wanted to do to try to help?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the call that I first got was from Raj, although I know Jill and Raj and Susie and TJ, and just have tremendous respect for what they have all done in the community in the past. So it was, I think it was on a weekend, and I got the call, and there was a clear desire, and it did come out of that sort of gut relationship that a lot of people had with restaurant workers, and the realization that it was hitting them first. I mean, the rest of us definitely knew it was coming for us as well, but the immediate sort of, visceral impact of not only people being laid off, but whole businesses being shuttered, I think hit everyone. And Raj was talking about, is there something specifically that we can do for this first cohort of really hard hit people? And then how do we also open it up so that we're not reinventing any wheel? We're, very directly and quickly getting capital to where it's needed, but not sort of trying to say, hey, we know it better, or we've got the solution, or we should start our own thing. But instead, how do we get that connectivity with the rest of the community? Which I think is why they reach out to me. I mean, we're all involved in lots of things together. But I think, the thought was Heather will probably know sort of the people who are working on this on the sort of the organizational side as well as the government side. And that way we can maybe be more effective faster by harnessing some of those relationships. And then I thought it was really fun how, Raj and Jill and TJ and Susie were able to just build this great group of people who are good at raising money. and it became in a highly competitive group too, right? So it really became like this huge crusade where, I was kind of like, oh man, everyone's doing all this work. And I was super busy on my day job. And then I was like, okay, I'm starting tonight and I'm going to get this thing done. And then it became just very, very gratifying to see how eager everyone was to help. And not in a way that they wanted to be on the front page or anything else, but just wanted to get in there and contribute what they could as quickly as possible.
Yeah, my wheels are spinning and I'm trying not to interrupt because I'm so excited by what you're doing and I have so many questions, but I was thinking, obviously I'm just curious how you chose the causes because you started talking about restaurant workers. And so I'm curious from both of you, how you chose the causes and ultimately, which organizations to support. And then I was also just thinking, as far as people wanting to get involved, I love that you did various organizations because I feel the same way. I'm like, I want to do something, but I don't have time to research and I don't know where the money goes and how it's dealt with. So the fact that it's been vetted and I can just go all in Seattle and this is where I'm going to take things, which we will be doing for fuel. We're going to be donating a percentage of our revenues over the next until the end of the year. And I was like, great, they've already done the heavy lifting. But how did you choose? Because I love the organizations that you're supporting.
Well, that's amazing that you guys are going to join forces. We really appreciate that. And I think that's the spirit of the whole thing was to get people to act as quickly as possible. Heather brought us to a group called Challenge Seattle that has done a lot of thinking and working on this too. We also connected with the Seattle Foundation to see what they were doing. We have people who are really involved in United Way, and each of those groups was at the, all in parallel, organizing around different causes and coming up with the 5 areas where we could, we felt like we're the most critical, and then figure out which organizations were there within those areas to direct people towards. It actually didn't really feel that hard. It became really apparent pretty quickly, I think, that it was food and it was housing, because how is anyone going to pay their rent after this? And are people going to be evicted? And then small businesses. Well, that was our immediate path towards these restaurants and many, many other small businesses, as it turns out. How can they get help in this? And what I think has been really, just exciting about the whole thing is that it's all changing day by day as people are figuring out and putting new tools in place.
Yeah.
And we've got a simple enough structure that we can change along with it.
Yeah. Tell me about some of the technology and some of the people that have been able to support the cause. And also you talked about, the newest news. Jill, I'd love to hear from you, some of the other organizations that are getting involved.
Yeah. So we knew food would be a problem, right? And we have 3 or 4 organizations on the site from the beginning who were helping with that food security and getting things like grocery store cards, cash cards into people's hands so that they could go and buy groceries, or getting food to the food banks because they had to completely change their distribution systems and their volunteer systems to comply with the social distancing and get the food out to the people that needed it. And today, Governor Inslee announced something called the Washington Food Fund. And basically, it's fascinating to me because the speed with which everyone acted. They did a public-private partnership that coordinates the response statewide for food insecurity. So it's the 3 main food banks east of the mountains and then here in Western Washington. They were all kind of working separately, and now they're all working together, and they're going to find the holes, find where people aren't getting relief, and then get food to those places quickly. It's such a smart idea, and I'm so excited. So we're today changing the website to reflect that.
Yeah. And then yesterday, Sherry and Howard Schultz also got involved. Tell us a little bit about that involvement.
Yeah, Heather, do you want to cover that one?
Sure. You probably know more about it than I do. I wanted to give Jill a little bit of kudos here because the vetting process, I mean, we got a lot of input. We got input from donors as well as from government and from some of the organizations that Jill cited. But Jill went through and basically, rewrote everybody's marketing materials so that we had some uniformity to make it easy for people like you, Shauna, because a lot of this is just too overwhelming to try to sort through all the info, but trying to give all of the organizations that we had been recommended a uniform kind of look and feel from a information standpoint on the site, and then the ability to sort of like test out who were they and what were they doing. Jill did all of that, and we continue to get sort of recommendations from new folks every day. The Schultzes got involved pretty early on and were working with us from, pretty much from day one. And it's interesting that when they started thinking about what they wanted to do, they were looking for gaps, and they really identified that there was still this critical need specifically for restaurant workers and particularly for undocumented restaurant workers. And so that's what the Plate initiative is about, and we're certainly supporting that on the site. And the team at Accolade, who has done the site and continues to maintain the site, is just again heroic. I mean, a lot of people looked at the site.
The site is like, I went on there.
Yeah,
I went on there actually. I didn't even know about All in Seattle. I had said to my team about 3 weeks ago, I'd really like to support some sort of organization. And there's this woman on my team who's just awesome. She's always volunteering to do stuff that's kind of outside of her job description. And she's like, oh, I'll take that on. And like 10 minutes later, she's like, oh, check this out, All in Seattle. And I'm like, oh, this person's involved and that person. And you guys were like spearheading it. And so she's the one who brought it to my attention. And then I go on, and as I'm seeing articles and, saw you guys on TV, there's been an incredible professionalism about it. I went on the website this morning to just prep for today, and I'm like, this thing, it's pretty magnificent. What are you planning as far as going forward with All in Seattle? What's the plan?
There's some partnership opportunities in the works right now. As Heather and I have said, it's a team of volunteers. I think there's a lot of people balancing their day jobs with trying to maintain the current status of the site, as well as there's a ton of very worthy organizations who we were not able to feature on the site. And one of the things that the whole group started from is it's not a comprehensive list. We've selected these organizations because we knew they're working now, but there are other people doing great work out there. And if there's something that you don't find on the site that you're passionate about and you know that they're hurting right now, then please donate to them. All In is not just these select organizations. It's anywhere, any nonprofit is helping people right now, support that. And you are definitely part of All In.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That totally makes sense. But for those listening or watching, I'm not used to being on the video. Obviously, you can go on the website, but I just want to list the kind of categories. And I know that you talked about them, but it's food security, communities and workers, small businesses, housing assistance, family and children, all like so relevant. And I love that it's really for stuff that's like here and now. How can we help like this minute? And we're all seeing it every single day. But I am curious, Heather, given that you've got your finger on the pulse of technology and the business community, and you're right there in it, what do you think as far as, you guys have accomplished a lot in a very short period of time, but what do you think the needs of our city are going to be in the coming months as far as the economy? We were kind of the first hit, and, what do you foresee our needs, September, October?
Yeah, I think this is, I've just, I guess maybe Saturday started thinking about this pretty deeply, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Jill and Raj about it yet, but I definitely plan to. I feel like we're doing a decent job of handling the medical crisis, and we are doing a job, at least we're working on it. I won't say decent yet, but we're doing a job of filling the gap with government resources and philanthropic resources to kind of cover those immediate needs that you listed. But if there were a overarching need that probably a lot of people in Seattle are thinking about right now, they'd be saying, okay, I want a food voucher, or I want some emergency childcare, or I need help with my rent. But what I really want is a job. And getting the economy working again, and getting it working as quickly as possible and with as little missteps as possible from a medical standpoint, that is really going to be the job that we all have to take on going forward here. And it's going to take a lot of creativity, I think a lot of technology, a lot of thinking outside the box in terms of what are we willing to ask people to do to avoid having a second wave or a third wave of the virus. But we've got to all turn our attention to that as business leaders. And that means everything from startups to, big companies, and from tech to restaurant workers. It's across the board. But I feel like that's an even greater test in many ways, because it requires really intense information sharing and communication and load bearing by government, NGOs, and the business community. And we don't always work well together. And so we need to, really pick up our game in that regard and figure out how we can unite to get folks back to work. Because without a job, it's very, very hard for a lot of people to maintain their sanity, much less feed their children and maintain their apartment or their mortgage or whatever it is. So that job restoration and then job creation is really, really essential.
Absolutely. Completely agree with that. Well, I can tell you, our business is obviously in the job finding world, and we have been impacted, but there are definitely jobs that are still out there. And I talked to Madrona, and they've gotten involved, and we also sponsored a website called Silver Lining.
Yes.
That has been started out of the tech community of kind of people who have been laid off and those who are hiring. And then I'm also doing my part within Fuel Talent to try to find people jobs, and kind of all of us joining forces together. We can do whatever we can. We're trying to do some complimentary resume help work. And I think everybody that's got a gift of any sort that they can give back to people right now, it's just that kind of hands-on help is what I think people need to try to find some sort of happy ending here. But I cannot tell you guys how inspired I am by what you're doing, and anything that I can do to help. I'm always here.
Well, thank you. You've done a great thing by having us on the show. Really appreciate it.
Well, yeah. Hopefully people listen to it and see it. And by the next time, maybe we get some art. And I love the backgrounds, and I love both of you. Thank you.
Oh, seriously. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yep.
Talk to you soon.
Good to see you, Shauna.
Stay safe.
Good to see you, Jill.
Good to see you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, and follow us on social media to keep up with the latest news and episodes. You can also contact us at podcast@fueltalent.com to provide feedback, ask questions, and share topics or guests you would like us to cover in the future. We hope you feel inspired by our guests and that we have helped fuel your day. Join us next time for another episode of What Fuels You.